So this week on MatChat, we're going to be talking about who you actually become when you start learning how to protect yourself. Yes, you're going to be learning some cool punches, some cool kicks. You're going to be learning how to fight, but acquiring these skills changes the person that you are. And a lot of times that person ends up being unrecognizable. Along with the techniques that you learn, you're also going to get an identity shift. It changes your presence. That means that when the way that you move, the way that you carry yourself completely changes when you understand how to protect yourself and you can protect the people that you care about. When you walk in a room, imagine walking in a room and the fear of harm not being there. Imagine that. Most people go about their lives in fear that if something was to happen, they wouldn't be able to defend themselves. Imagine the type of person that you would be if you were able to walk in a room and not have the fear of being harmed. You're able to go into environments and be yourself. A lot of times we underestimate the fear that we have for our own safety. Fear of harm, fear that somebody's going to do something harmful to us is inherently human. That is the mother of all fears. And when you gain the knowledge and the expertise to be able to defend yourself, you have just attacked fear at its core, at its source. Now you can walk into an environment and not have to worry about someone harming you. And when you think about it and peel back the layers, a lot of the fear that we have is based on the fact that someone can harm us. That is the root of everything that we fear. So when you learn how to defend yourself, you have cut fear off at the source. Now you're free to be yourself. Now you're free to speak your mind. Now you're free to show who you actually are. You don't have to put on any front. You don't have to wear masks. You can be yourself. I've been in plenty of environments, intimidating environments, particularly professionally intimidating. I remember when I was in my early 20s and I started working at a car dealership, and this young guy stepping on a showroom floor with all of these hotshot salesmen in their 30s, 40s, grown men that are making money. It was an intimidating environment. But I quickly used the fact that I would put it like this. I'm like, why am I intimidated by these guys? Because none of them can kick my ass. And as silly as that sounds, that lack of fear was what got me through an environment like that. That is how I coped with the intimidation of being in an environment that I wasn't comfortable in. And a lot of times when I find myself being a little intimidated by a particular environment, I easily talk myself out of that intimidation by just reminding myself that, hey, no one in here can really do me harm. And that is a powerful thing to be able to say. And it can get you through a lot of tough situations. And it makes you carry yourself very different. It puts you at ease. And the confidence that you get from being able to defend yourself spills over into other parts of your life. After a hard training session, the pressures at work don't seem so hard. After fighting off your training partners, when things get complicated in your relationship, you understand how to stay calm and get through it. In martial arts, we put pressure on ourselves deliberately, and even though it's a different kind of pressure, us dealing with the inherent pressure of keeping yourself physically safe. When you can deal with that, you can deal with all of the other pressures. Now, when we're talking about confidence, we're not talking about intimidation. When you're truly confident, you have no need to use intimidation as a tactic. And as a matter of fact, when you are using intimidation as a tactic, that actually means that you lack confidence. You don't want to be going around and shoving your weight around and threatening people and making people afraid of you. There's no need to do that. And if you're doing that, you're making a huge mistake. Intimidation is unnecessary when you step into the role of protector. And as a matter of fact, it can work against you when you try to use intimidation as a tactic, because yes, intimidation will scare off some people, but some people will fight back, and it makes you a bigger target when you try to use intimidation. There's no need to use intimidation. When you use confidence instead of intimidation, it keeps everybody in the right lane. So for example, yes, for those who wish to do others harm, or those who wish to do you harm, you will intimidate them. But you will intimidate them with your confidence. But when you just use intimidation as your only tactic to keep you safe and the people around you safe, what you end up doing is you end up intimidating people who wish you no harm. You have to be a beast for the people who you're standing across from, and a teddy bear for the people that's standing behind you. And you can only do that through confidence, not intimidation. If you use intimidation as your go-to tactic, then people won't trust you with their vulnerabilities. People won't trust you with their weakness. And if you're trying to step into the role of a real protector, most of that role involves being compassionate and leading with love, leading with understanding, leading with gentleness, leading with softness. And the intimidation portion is only reserved for those who wish to do harm. And when you learn how to defend yourself, you also have a responsibility to the people that are around you. You have a responsibility to be able to use be able to hold back. You even have a responsibility to the people who might wish you harm. You can't overreact. You can't act emotional. You carry a great power in your hands, and with that power comes a responsibility to be able to exhibit restraint. So, along with the power that you get from being able to defend yourself, being able to protect the people that you care about, you also have a responsibility to only use those powers to physically protect people when people are physically in danger, when you're physically in danger. You can't resort to violence because someone insulted you or said something that you didn't like or even treated you in a way that you didn't like. You have to be very careful with how you use the power and the skills that you acquire by training in martial arts. You have a responsibility to your family and community to make sure that you don't bring unnecessary danger to them. Because if you're making yourself a target, you're going to also make them a target. So, along with that power that you get from being able to defend yourself or being able to fight, comes a responsibility to exhibit restraint, a responsibility to walk away. You can't be a hothead. And if you are training correctly, and I'm not talking about training the techniques correctly, if you're training in the right frame of mind, you understand that no matter how good you get, you're vulnerable. We all have vulnerabilities. There's always going to be someone tougher out there. So even when it comes to keeping yourself physically safe, restraint is going to be your best strategy. Now, when we're talking about keeping people safe, we're talking about protecting people. We also, and when we're talking about vulnerabilities, we also have to be realistic about the fact that we can't be there to protect everyone all the time. We have to pass on what we know. If I'm a parent and of course I want to keep my kids physically safe, the best way for me to do that is to pass that knowledge on to them, is to teach them how to defend themselves. The best protector doesn't just focus on protecting. His main focus or her main focus is also empowerment. I want to show you how to do it yourself. I want you to feel powerful. I want you to feel safe on your own, by yourself. And a big part of the martial arts journey is passing it on to the next generation, passing it on to the next person. And I tell my students all the time, especially the kids, I tell them when you guys are out playing with your friends, hanging out with your friends, show them the stuff that you learn. That's going to also be the best way that you're going to remember the things. I know personally in my journey, my technique I never really considered myself a technician, a technical person. I kind of knew when I wasn't teaching, I kind of knew what I knew how to do, and that was it. But it wasn't until I had to help other people solve their martial arts problems that my technique went through the roof. So a big part of your martial arts journey for personal reasons, to better your technique, and for responsibility reasons. That's your responsibility to protect yourself and the people that you care about. You have to always be looking to pass the skills along, show people what they should be doing, explaining to people, hey, do this or do that, teaching the next generation. It's a huge part of it. And when you take on that role of protector, you're also taking on a role of leadership. People are going to call you, are going to call on you for help. People are going to ask you your advice. It's funny, as when martial arts instructor, we get all kinds of questions. People ask us about finances and all. They think we know about everything. Like, no, I just know how to throw a punch. But when you take on that role of protector, people will reach out and look for your leadership, because they're also going to see those characteristics. They're also going to see the personality traits that you have developed by having the skill set. And they're going to want you to show them how to lead their life like that. They're going to be looking at you for leadership. And if you have the responsibility of protecting people, they also have to they also have to respect your leadership role. A lot of times what happens, and this is very common, you'll have a friend, a loved one that always calls on you to get them out of trouble, but never wants to take your advice on how to keep themselves out of trouble. When you are taking on the role of protector in someone's life, you're not going to be able to fully handle your responsibility unless they are willing to follow your leadership. I know when I was in the protection industry, we would sit our clients down prior and let them know, hey, listen, if I say we need to go, we need to go. And I remember a couple times where I had to let a client go because they would not follow my leadership. They would not take my advice. And they were doing things that was compromising their own safety, our safety, everybody's safety. And they were not respecting our leadership. In order for that relationship to work, they have to respect your leadership. And if they don't, it won't work. But ultimately, like I was saying before, the martial arts journey is about passing that torch off to the next generation. And like I said, I recommend to my students to start teaching immediately. And for those people that train, you should be taking on instructor roles in your gym, passing the torch. It pretty much is a requirement, even in some martial arts, before you get your black belt, you have to have a certain amount of experience instructing. That is a big part of your personal development. That's a big part of your responsibility as protector. That's a big part in your role in the community, your role in your family, passing the torch and teaching is what makes your martial arts, was what brings your martial arts journey full circle. Because a true guardian doesn't just display their capability. A true guardian will multiply their capability. You multiply your capability by sharing the knowledge. But yes, when you embark on this martial arts journey, you, along with the physical capabilities that you will acquire, you will also acquire personality changes for the better, hopefully, for the most part, for the better. You will carry yourself differently. You will inherit certain responsibilities. And overall, it will make you a better person and a better contributor to your community and your family. All right, guys, gotta run. Coach Sully, Reps and Sweat Martial Arts and Fitness. This was MatChat.